The days are longer, the calendar is filling up, and I want to feel as good as this beautiful summer weather. That's why I've been loving Groons. It's one daily pack of gummies that covers my greens, vitamins, and minerals, and even has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber. So I don't need to juggle a complicated wellness routine on top of everything else. They taste amazing. They're easy to toss in my bag on the go. Plus, they're vegan, gluten free, and HSA, FSA eligible for reimbursement. Save up to 52% off with promo code podcast at gruns.co. That's code podcast at gruns.co.
Here at the Russo-Souhan Show, we try to break news whenever we can, and Michael Russo is about to break one of the biggest stories, I don't know, of the year or of all time.
No, I think so. I usually break stories around free agency, so this is no different. And you and I were free agents up until a couple days ago. And after teasing it on Twitter and getting all Wild fans excited that I had this big Wild scoop, I actually have a Russo-Souhan Show scoop. We are finally back doing live shows twice a month, starting on Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Twice a month. Pay attention to Twitter. We'll be going to Dulono's Pizza, which is just this awesome place in downtown Minneapolis on 4th Street by Target Field. It's 5,000 square feet plus, full bar. By the way,
almost big enough to hold our egos.
Yes, exactly. Lunch buffet, $9.99, I think it is. You got pizza, sandwiches, salad. But what I love is TVs everywhere, pool tables everywhere, dartboards everywhere, game room.
Video
I won't be
games.
playing Pac-Man.
Bubble hockey,
which
is my favorite game
it's
of
just
all
an
time.
awesome place, and we're just, Delano's Pizza, it's been around for 60 years,
Mm-hmm.
and we're very honored and humbled that they have taken us on. And so twice a month, starting Tuesday at 5:30. Starting this Tuesday. It'll be different depending on our schedules as usual, but really hope that you guys that are loyal listeners of the Russo-Souhan Show come on out to our first show. What's really neat is where we're going to be doing the show. It's this gigantic table, so we can have like Vicky and Clyde right there looking at us. So it's going to be really awesome to just kind of be back live with our Wild brethren.
Dulono's Pizza, you probably remember it from its Uptown days when it was pretty famous. They have moved downtown 118 North 4th Street. That's 4th with a numeral 4. 118 North 4th Street, Minneapolis. I believe isn't that where the old Sawati used to be, or am I getting that wrong?
Not sure.
Okay, but anyway, you can Google it. You can go to their website, which is delanospizza.com. Again, 118 North 4th Street. We'll be there at 5:30. They have happy hours, 3 to 7 every day, $3 domestic bottles and taps, $3 wells, $1 off appetizers. They also deliver to a huge area, basically all the way down south to the Crosstown, out to 100, up to 55, up in Northeast, up to again, check out their website. It's a huge delivery area. I've always loved their pizza. I'm going to tell a story I know about Dulono's when we get together on Tuesday. So come out and join us. Dulono's is joining our growing list of sponsors, including Twill in the Dining Galleria, FixologyRepair.com, and Tony Hoaglund, your State Farm agent in Champlin. We're adding a couple more sponsors here coming up in the next couple of months. So good times for the Russo-Souhan Show. We appreciate all the support that's helped get us this far. Check out all the shows at TalkNorth.com. Download for our sake. It's good for our business. Download before you listen for your sake because it's a better listening experience. No Wi-Fi interruptions. It doesn't matter if you have coverage. You're going to be able to get through the whole show. Check out all that. And now let's get to some hockey very quickly. Free agency, Michael. Is something happening behind the scenes? Is it going to be quiet? What's the outlook for the Wild?
It's a good question. I just wrote this gigantic kind of piece. And by the way, when I wrote this piece, I was on like 3 Americanos at Starbucks.
Oh, it had to be good then.
So there are a lot of weird kind of comments in there and jokes and
It's what we come to
I
expect.
let out for the first time publicly that James Neal hates me, that type of stuff.
You've said that before on the podcast.
Yeah, on the podcast, but never in print.
Right.
The podcast just goes off into oblivion.
Yeah, nobody listens.
Actually, that's radio. Podcast kind of listens forever.
Actually, people go back and listen over and over.
Yeah. So it is. I mean, I definitely. You'll see. It's a laid back read, and it was kind of fun to write, but it might piss off Wild fans because look, I mean, the way that I wrote this is like I'm not going to sit there and say the Wild can go after James Neal, James Van Riemsdyk, David Perron, Tyler Bassett, Bozak, Patrick Maroon, Brooks Orpik. These guys yet, because the way I'm figuring is that, and this could be outdated by the time this podcast comes out, is that until the Wild make a trade, their cap space is what it is on Sunday. And so if they haven't made a trade as of Sunday, at least on that day, we have to assume, and frankly, they have to assume, that they're going to re-sign Zucker and Dumba. So that's right there about $10+ million. And then what do you have left is about, it's 7, but it's really a little less because you got to save money for players to get injured and internal changes. Now, my guess is in the next 2 days, either Friday or Saturday, they're going to begin the buyout process to create another $2.4 million on Ennis. But what I'm saying is that right now, writing this, I had to look more at everybody's favorite word, tweaking. And when I started talking to a lot of agents this week and started asking about the big names, I was given every indication, frankly, on every big name, supposed big name. Because, these players that are available in free agency right now are not players that you really want to overspend on the vast majority. And it just seemed to me that they weren't asking around on the big players. I will say James Neal is the one guy I can't figure out where he's going. His agent has gone off the beat. His agent, who I'm tight with, is just like MIA right now. I know his son graduated from law school yesterday or something, but he hasn't texted anybody I know back. I was just talking to an NHL insider on the way here. He's like, what the hell, where is this guy? And they're being quiet with him. But my point is that Elliot Friedman from Sportsnet wrote last night that the Wild were interested in Greg Patterson, and Elliot rarely writes something without it being true. I mean, he's the one that first had Tom Curvers come in here, and when he writes it, you just know that it's happening. And so, I talked to Patterson's people close to Patterson, and it looks like it's definitely going to happen. So what they're doing there is obviously getting a much more physical right shot defenseman than Prosser, and they're either exceeding their depth or expanding their depth, or they are getting maybe some insurance if they traded Spurgeon or Dumba. But I think that all Wild fans now I can't profess to say that I know everything about Greg Patterson. Or even if I'm pronouncing his name right, Jim. But you still there?
Well, it's a tradition on this podcast to mess up pronunciations all the time. So it's just what we do. Yeah,
but
it's our thing.
But it is funny. I mean, he sounds like kind of right shot, almost like Clayton Stoner type guy. I talked to some people that know him today really well, and they like him. They like him as a player. He played regularly, really, for the first time last year with the Dallas Stars. 6'3", 220 pounds, physical, decent shot, really shoots, can get to the puck, and seems like from the scouting report, kind of what the Wild could use on a back end that is very, very non-physical and frankly small. So we'll see if it works. But what it does is it tells you they're either getting insurance or Prosser's going to be the 7th D, or eventually after training camp put on waivers again. And knowing Pross, he'll wind up in St. Louis rather than Iowa. Left shot D, they have called on some. I just don't see a priority there, but maybe they're going to sign somebody. But the one thing that when I look at their depth chart right now, I see right shot center as a definite need. They've definitely talked to Riley Nash. Nash had a great year with Boston, was loved there by the coaches, but wants more term and money than Boston can give, and frankly, that could keep him from Minnesota. But you look at Nashville's history, and all the big guys that they sign, a lot of them are with his agent, Kurt Overhart. So there's a good relationship between Paul Fenton and Kurt Overhart. So maybe Riley Nash makes sense. The problem that I see there, and I wrote this in my story, is Joel Eriksson Ek, they want playing third-line center, not fourth-line center. Well, Riley Nash is more of a third-line center. Is he going to come here if all of a sudden he might wind up playing the fourth line? And they don't want Eriksson Ek playing the wing. And so it just doesn't, the fit from Nash's point of view, from the Wild point of view, it'd be a good get. But from Nash's point of view, I'm not positive that he would want to come here if he just scours the depth chart. But I will say, if I'm the Wild, I'd be a little scared of just saying Eric's neck and anointing him the third line center. To me, he didn't show enough to just warrant that next year. But at some point, you got to give him the role. If you're wasting him if you're playing him on the fourth line.
Great thing about doing this show is I went up to my apartment, I did my taxes, I came back down, and Michael was just finishing the answer. That was good stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, one other note about Dulono's Pizza. You can follow them on Twitter at Dulono's Pizza. It's an easy way, and Dulonos Pizza. Easy way to keep track of our schedule at the pizzeria. Also find out about their specials. They do a bunch of trivia stuff. They have happy hours and lunch specials. A good way to keep track of an organization that's helping us out a lot. Let's get to our primary sponsor. Dulono's is our hosting sponsor. Our primary sponsor is Twill in the Edina Galleria. Check them out at twillmn.com. Twill on Instagram. I've told you about Scott Dayton and his shop. It's a great place to shop. It's the nicest mall in the Twin Cities. It's the easiest mall to get in and out of. Parking right there. You're just never far away from the front door. And it's a really pleasant shopping experience at Twill. They're really relaxed. They have just, along with all the other stuff that we tell you about in their ads, they have just cool stuff. They have a garment bag that rolls up into a duffel bag. They have hand-stitched belts made in Vietnam. They're always bringing in new and creative designers, and I wear a lot of the stuff. So check out twillmn.com.
Hi, I'm Stacy Souhan. I love Twill, Scott Dayton's shop in the Edina Galleria. Twill takes the stress out of shopping by offering updated traditional fashion. I know that if Jim goes in there shopping alone, I will like what he buys, whether it's pajamas, flannel shirts, or suits. I plan to recommend Twill to my daughter when she has to buy wedding party gifts and attire. Twill in the Edina Galleria will bring your fashion game to a championship level.
What's going on with Ennis?
I'm just laughing at Twitter. So my entire story. Are you familiar with the rating system on athletic stories?
Yes.
It's like meh, good, and awesome or something. Yep. So my whole story is I'm just going to not beat around the bush. You're going to rate this story meh. When you see the names, it's going to be meh, and I put meh everywhere. So somebody on Twitter, Jeff Taylor, just sent me a screen capture of the meh button. The people at The Athletic, there is a rating system that somehow the guys at The Athletic are their analytics people. So there is a rating. They get a number of what these stories are rated. And tomorrow they're going to see mine and wonder why the heck is this the lowest rated story in The Athletic history. And it's almost because I dared everybody to give me a bad rating.
I don't think meh should be the lowest rating.
Yeah, I agree with you. It should be
or it should be bleep you. I'm going to. Well, I mean, I know if the Star Tribune had a rating system on my columns, we'd need something much stronger than meh for people to feel satisfied.
That is very good. That is very true.
What's going on with Ennis?
My guess is that by the either Friday or Saturday they're going to pull the trigger. I thought it could happen today, but again, I mean, if you're Paul Fenton and you're trying to throw him into a trade, if you can buy him out Saturday. Why pull the trigger now if there's maybe the outside chance you could toss him in a deal here in the next 2 days? So, the way I understood, so buyout window ends on June 30th, but I have been told that you can actually put the person on buyout waivers on June 30th and buy him out on July 1st, and it's still good in the first window. So my guess is Friday or Saturday, Ennis will get a phone call from the Wild.
Is there any way he's still on the roster this season?
I don't think so. I will say the way the depth chart lines up, I mean, he does fit on the third line left wing, but I think it's time to give him a new chance. I mean, Bruce doesn't have any faith in him, doesn't want to play him. So why do it again? It's $4.6 million. It makes no sense to keep him and bury him in the minors because it's more cap space that would be charged to you. And, again, if you have plans to make moves here in free agency, it makes sense to buy him out. If all of a sudden they look and they're like, wow, there are no top six forwards to get him, we don't think we're going to make a trade, maybe it makes sense to keep him. I will say, if I'm a Wild fan, I know Wild fans hate to hear wait a year, but I was looking at the free agents that are at least free agents next season today, or I was looking at them this week. And guys are going to be re-signed any day now, the Logan Coutures of the world. But next season's free agent list is so much more appetizing than this. But a lot of those guys are going to be re-up. But, It would be, you don't want to waste your cap space on a bunch of meh players right now if you can maybe hit a home run next year. So there, just to spend cap space for the sake of it makes no sense to me.
Tell me what's going on with the front office, who's going to do what the hierarchy is, and if it's set now or if we still have some departures on tap.
Yeah, well, I mean, Tommy Curvers is in. His first day was Monday. It wasn't announced till Tuesday, but again, Elliot tweeted that out. And I had heard rumblings at the draft, but then I saw him go up to the Tampa's table, so then I'm like, all right, I guess this is just a bad rumor. But then I learned after the fact, I never looked again, that he never sat at Tampa's table the whole time because it was already in the works that he was coming to Minnesota. Curvers makes sense. I think he's a great hockey guy. He's local. He knows Fenton. He gets along with Fenton. He's another outside eyes. He's somebody that's seen the Wild a gazillion times in the last 20 years, 18 years that they've been in existence. So, I just think he's going to have a good grasp on the team. And we all knew that eventually he was going to have his own right-hand man. Now, I will tell you, it has become extremely clear to me that I don't know if Craig Leopold if it's an edict or not, but I don't think that anybody that was given this extra year by Chuck Fletcher, which is almost everybody in the organization that hasn't lost their job yet, is going to get fired. I don't think that Craig is going to just have dead money out there without guys that are good hockey people that aren't working. So I think what we're going to see is a lot of these guys work the year, then lose their jobs. Brent Flair is the senior vice president of hockey ops. He was Chuck Fletcher's number 2 for the right-hand man for 9 years. He's, I think, going to probably, it hasn't been told to me, but it's been alluded to me that it's like, all right, you're out of the office, go amateur scout, which is your bread and butter anyway, go amateur scout for the year. So I think we're going to see a lot less of Brent, and he's going to be more like head amateur scout this year than what he was doing right-hand man and blah, blah, blah. Shep Harder, who is the contract guy, who is an assistant GM, he's also their CBA expert. He's kind of like he's who, tells you, hey, by the way, you need to know that this is coming. He's very important in the organization. I can't see him going anywhere because I don't know who would do that job. And Paul hasn't done that job, and really Curvers hasn't done that job. So I think he is absolutely integral right now. And then Bruno's another good question. I think that maybe, I do think that I wrote the other day that scouts lost their job. I know their names. I'm not writing it. They have families. Wild fans don't care who the scouts are, I don't think. But I will say their director of pro development or pro scouting since the Doug Risebrough administration, Blair Mackesy was definitely one that lost a job. And my guess, and I think Jamie Hislop, their other pro scout, retired. So the other one that I don't know what his fate is Chris Kelleher. So right now I'm just going to say that he's status quo. But because they just got rid of or lost 2 pro scouts, one on his own volition, the other that was let go, my guess is Bruno's going to do a lot of that, a lot of pro scouting. And he's the other assistant GM. But technically, unless there's title changes, there are 3 assistant GMs right now. Right now, as far as I know, the 2 analytics people from Warren Ice, the people that they hired 3 or 4 years ago from them, are still on. I'm guessing that they were 2 of the people that got Alexandra and Alex, that they both got an extra year from Chuck. So my guess is they're safe. And that's really makes up the front office that people would know. All scouts that I know that didn't have an extra year have lost their jobs. But I haven't heard a couple names that have been there for a long time that are good local scouts, and maybe they're staying on. So we'll see. But they definitely have started making moves there. And the other thing I will say, I did go just out of my own. It was like a last second thought today, but I went to the Oilers website to just see if PJ Fenton was still listed there as a scout. He is, but I would almost guarantee that PJ Fenton, his son, is going to be a scout here. Or in some capacity in the front office, let's put it that way. Whether it's amateur or again, in the front office working with Paul.
Makes sense. Let's talk about...
And everybody, by the way, says that PJ is a great guy, great hockey guy. He's kind of freshly off the ice, too, which is kind of cool. So...
Cool. Let's talk about Tavares and the overall free agency picture in the NHL after we thank Fixology Repair, fixologyrepair.com. Third floor of the Mall of America by Nordstrom's, downtown, just south of the Wells Fargo Center, in the Skyway, which means second level, across from Dunn Brothers and right by Taco John's and all those places. I walk by there all the time. It's very convenient, just a nice, tidy little space with all kinds of cool accessories. They specialize in jewelry repair, iPhone repair, tablet repair. I got to take my tablet in. I'm going to take my tablet in next week. My iPad's banged up a little bit. Cell phone repair, watch repair. You can buy stuff there as well. Check out fixologyrepair.com. John Hedge is our friend. We will be seeing soon down at Dulono's because he comes to all the live shows.
There are some things in life that you just can't live without. Now, whether it's a special piece of jewelry, a watch, or even your smartphone, you want it in working condition. At Fixology Repair, we are committed to restoring your pieces so that everything works or fits the way it ought to. Watch servicing, chain repair, and broken screen replacements are just a few of the services that we offer at our 2 locations, Mall of America and the Skyway in downtown Minneapolis. Please visit us at fixologyrepair.com or at fixologymn on Twitter to learn more. Mention this ad and get a 10% discount on our services.
So we'll get to Twitter questions here, but what do you think's going on with Tavares and the overall free agency picture?
My guess is, and I know that no fan listening to this is going to feel for him, but my guess is his head is absolutely spinning, being presented by all this from 6 excellent teams, including the Islanders. And, just imagine that, like every one of these teams is going to give you 11 to 13 million bucks. If it's the Maple Leafs, even maybe a 1-year deal at 15.9, as some people have reported. But just imagine having to digest this and all the good and bad of going to all these teams. I mean, like who wouldn't want to play in San Jose? Who wouldn't want to play in Tampa? Who wouldn't want to play in Boston or Long Island or Toronto? I mean, especially New York. My head is spinning. His head is spinning, and mine.
But your head's always spinning.
Yeah. And I just think that now it's kind of, I don't know, you go through this process. I got to think the Islanders are freaking out now. Like the second that Lou Lamoriello was hired, I mean, the guy's basically in the mob. I'm like, well, he's going to get his guy. I mean, he essentially had legal tampering the week before where he allegedly was meeting, even though it wasn't announced that he left Toronto and was going to Long Island, he was meeting with Tavares. I mean, only Lou can get away with that in the NHL and not get in trouble. Then he gets Barry Trotz, and so Trotz, I'm thinking, well, Trotz must know that Tavares is coming back, because why would Trotz commit to that situation unless even though there's not a job available technically, but you could wait, unless you knew that Tavares was coming back. But then he goes through this process, and all of a sudden he's getting wooed by all these teams. He's from Toronto. He's got Joe Pavelski's grandmother begging him to come to San Jose. Steve Yzerman saying, in Tampa is just like, here, I'm a Hall of Famer, come play with me. It's, I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do. I will say this, and I've alluded to it on my piece on The Athletic right now, but I think that if he goes to Toronto, if I'm Paul Fenton, and this is what I think is delaying things right now. If I'm Paul Fenton and he goes to Toronto, I call up a minute later Kyle Dubas, and I say, all right, buddy. Okay, you just gave Tavares 12. You're going to have to sign Matthews in a year to 14 or 15. How the F do you think that you're going to be able to sign Mitch Marner or William Nylander, all these guys? Like, if I'm the Wild, I go to them and I offer Dumba if it's for a couple of those young studs, or I offer Spurgeon. I do it. I just think that that's... And I think that same thing with Tampa. And they got Tommy Curvers, who was just senior advisor in Tampa, so nobody knows them better. If Tampa gets Tavares, how the hell are they going to afford anybody? I mean, it's crazy. You look at their cap structure. They're going to have to trade some guys. So I go and I pounce. And I do think it's prudent at this point. Like, I know a lot of people med my story because of the lack of free agents and the sexy names. But if I'm Paul Fenton, the best way to fix this team is via trade, not free agency. Right. And so I'm perfectly...
That's so true.
Yes.
So often in professional sports, everybody wants the easy, quick fix. Oh, you get them. All you have to do is give them money. Whenever you sign a free agent, that's somebody that had their team let them go, and there's always a reason.
Yes.
I'm not saying that all free agents are bad. I'm saying that free agents...
Or they're up there in age, and you're going to get overpaid.
They're getting paid for what they used to do. I would say somewhere between 80 and 90% of free agent signings end up disappointing on some level. It's like Parisian Suter. You can't blame them for going and getting these guys. They were very good players. They played very, very well here, but they didn't go out and sign those guys so they could lose in the first round of the playoffs.
Right. No doubt. And so I just think that it is the right thing to do to be patient here and make the right trade. Because if you trade Zucker or Nino or Dumba or these guys in bad deals, then you're just really setting your organization back. So make sure it is the right deal. Even as much as it's pissing off the fans right now, it takes you into later in the summer, or it takes you into next week. But I think I think the reason why we haven't seen trades right now is because everybody's cap strapped, or not everybody, but you get my hyperbole there. And so I do think that a lot of these GMs are being smart and saying, wait a minute, I want to see what the hell JVR signs for and with who. I want to see who the hell John Tavares signs with and who, and then try to pounce on those teams to get their good players because they're going to have to make moves. And so I think that's the absolute right thing to do. And so, but I do think hopefully Paul Fenton and his staff are thinking kind of the way that I am here, where they're, you've waited this long, find out where these guys are going. And man, if it's Toronto, like even though they have a ton of cap space right now, Toronto, eventually, they have to pay these young kids. I can't see how they can keep them all if they get Tavares. And that is why, by the way, a lot of these reporters were leaked the whole 1 year 15, the max deal, because it's like, all right, let's give Tavares the max. We'll wait till we have to re-sign all these other guys. We'll get him for a year, maybe win a cup, and then he can go back to freaking Lou, or somebody else, and so or back into free agency next summer. That would turn the league completely upside down if all of a sudden Tavares was added to that list of players next year that's a free agent if he only signed a 1 year deal. So Marian Hossa once did that, I think, in Detroit. So,
Man, this is good stuff. This is in-depth, high-energy stuff. Let's get to Twitter questions. Let Michael buzz through all those after I remind you, Hoaglund, that's Tony Hoaglund's last name, his spelling. Google him. He's your State Farm agent in Champlin. He works, of course, he'll work anywhere in the Twin Cities or anywhere you want to do business with him. You can use the app. You can call. You can go to the website. Everything's very interactive and very easy. And again, the two people doing this podcast both get our insurance through Tony Hoaglund and State Farm.
Hey, Minnesota sports fans. This is your local State Farm agent, Tony Hoaglund. I need you all to ask yourselves this question. If you're in an at-fault car accident and you are sued for $700,000, how much of that $700,000 will my current insurance company pay? If you are unsure or can't answer all $700,000, you need to give us a call. State Farm has been number one in car insurance since World War II and number one in homeowners insurance since 1964. For a no-obligation review of your current policies, call us at 763-421-4900 or check out our website at www.champlininsurance.com.
All right, Twitter questions. Old friend Todd. Todd, we hope to see you out at Dulono's. Good. We haven't seen you in quite a while now. Todd asked, do you know what the Wild think of Grabner, cheap, speedy scorer, Riley Nash, cheap, speedy third line, Joe Thornton, mentor young centers like Stahl and Koivu? Thanks, guys.
Thornton's not coming here, and he wants to stay in San Jose. And if he is available, I wouldn't sign him. I like Riley Nash. Age is right. After the injuries that Thornton had last year, I get he's still Joe Thornton, Hall of Famer, first ballot, was in my Sports Illustrated for Kids book once.
Thrill for him.
But, I don't know. Thornton isn't a fit. Thornton's going to want to go somewhere where he can, in a 1 year deal, where he can win a cup. Sorry, but teams aren't going to look at the Wild, and that, a guy like that's not going to look at the Wild. I mean, sometimes fans need to look at stuff logically. It's like that Twitter account this week that got all Wild fans up in arms that the Wild offered Nino, Coyle, and Kaprizov for Panarin. Like, I don't even understand why Wild fans have to tweet me. The guy, it's an anonymous Twitter account. So right away, the guy's credibility is, I don't want to let you know who I am because I'm a freaking nobody that lives in his basement, or a teenager or whatever, and is enjoying getting people up in arms. Just go through his tweets. Has anything he ever written come true or not been something that he's tweeted after somebody wrote that possibly, those guys are potentially available? That's what all these Twitter people do. They read He follows me on Twitter. They read who's available. They read, oh, Russo says Panarin's perfect. So then they just make up something and then get a re-up. Do you really think that the Wild are going to trade 3 assets like that for 1 year of Panarin without having any assurance that he's coming here?
No.
Like, it's just not happening. Is he perfect? I'd probably give up those players for him. But unless I have, on July 1st, Dan Milstein on the phone saying he is signing with the Wild, then I am not making that trade. And do you think Columbus right now is going to let anybody speak to Dan Milstein? So, and by the way, I know, and I like Dan, and Dan, he's always accessible to all of us. I texted him something today, and he wrote me back in a second. But I will say, it's, the girlfriend thing might have gotten out of control, that Panarin wants to only go to play for 3 cities because his girlfriend is a model, and maybe that's just a bad rumor that everybody is spreading. But I have definitely heard from people that are inside the organization that he wants to play in a big city. Now, we can all, I think Minneapolis is the greatest place in this country. But Artemi Panarin's only been to St. Paul.
That's such a good point.
And, and so.
Good job, Michael. Way to tick off half our audience.
Yeah. So, anyway, I think I probably should shut up now. God, those Americanos have kicked in. I think I spiced it up with a couple of whiskeys. Oh, my God. So, yesterday, a couple days ago, so I'm showing my place right now, trying to sell it.
Showing off, just like telling people, hey, I'm Michael Russo. I live here.
So the phone rings, and it's Fenton calling. And he was calling us back because it was the day the Curvis moves. But I'm not used to Fenton calling. And so I'm in the cabinet getting something, and boom, this incredible bottle of Bushmills that I bought at the Bushmills distillery in Northern Ireland last year.
Oh no!
All over. I mean, gigantic bottle all over my kitchen floor. As Fenton's calling, so I pick up and I'm like, "You're not gonna believe it! I just bought, for 5 minutes we're shooting the breeze about whiskey and how I just dropped this incredible bottle." By the time that I got off the phone with him, I was drunk. The vapors of that whiskey had overtaken my entire house, and I was honestly, I couldn't even speak at the end of the call. He finally goes to me, he goes, I go, actually, it was the perfect way that he ended the call. I'm like, I hear you fired a bunch of scouts. He goes, I think you should go clean up that whiskey. and he goes, and make sure you're not barefoot. And that was my last conversation with Fenton telling me
That's fantastic. I got to interject here.
Yeah.
So my dad tried to make wine at one point in my young life. We go to church one Sunday. We come back from church, and we had a beagle, right? And my dad was making the wine in our pantry. Well, my dad didn't know what the hell he was doing. So the wine bottle exploded. It soaked into the dog food. My dog ate all the dog food. My dog was drunk for 3 days.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It was great.
But to get back to my original point on iTodd is a lot of this stuff, you don't need to be a sports writer to think of it. I mean, just figure this right now. There are 31 teams in the NHL. Joe Thornton's career is winding up. He's been in San Jose forever. Do you think on a 1-year deal as a free agent, he's coming to Minnesota? You don't have to wear your Wild heart on your sleeve to know that Joe Thornton is not coming to a place that he doesn't think has a chance to win the Stanley Cup. And I get that the Wild have made the playoffs 6 years in a row, but he's going to want to go someplace where he knows that there's a real chance. Now, if there are no other options out there, but, it's just he's not molding the Wild's young kids. First of all, the Wild aren't even a young team. They're an old team. So that's my feeling on that.
And you made it clear. From Ralph Wiggum, why is there talk about upgrading the backup goalie position? How does this get you out of the first round? Unless you win the division, you still get Winnipeg, Nashville, Chicago, St. Louis. Is the argument that Dubes needs more rest? Hasn't been the case yet. Yeah,
somebody wrote me back after some flippant comment, and I almost said, this is why I shouldn't tweet anything. And this really is. This is what happens when you just kind of throw out a tweet. And it used to never be that way in the old days. You'd report out an entire story during an entire day, and then you'd write a story that'd be in the next day's paper. Now it's you get little information as you get it, and you throw it out on Twitter, and then you have the Wild fans oh, yeah, that's really their priority. That's the only thing the Wild are going to do. And same thing here. It's look, I'm not saying Alex Stalock is going to get his job, and I'm not saying that, right, frankly, right now, I'm not convinced the Wild are going to spend their money in that way. But look, Devan Dubnyk's got 3 years left on his contract. He's the number one goalie here. Nobody's trading for him right now. So if you can get in my eyes, if you can get another potential number one in here, come in on a quality deal and send Alex to the minors, maybe you can hit lightning in a bottle and get past those teams that he's worried about. And so it's not the arrest thing, but I will say in the second half of the season, yet again, Bruce Boudreau showed he had little confidence in his backup goalie, barely played him, much to the chagrin at times of Stalock, and Dubnyk might have gotten tired, although I don't think he was your problem in the playoffs, you know? Although I do think in Game 5, he probably should have been pulled in the first period right away and just thrown Stalock in just to calm things down. Kind of like Peter Laviolette did to Rene. In fact, I will tell you that I have talked to Bruce Boudreau, and when he watched Laviolette do that with Rene, he's like, that's something I wish I did, you know? But look, if you can get another guy in here that can push, that'd be better. But the reality is that one reason why I was hearing the Wild were calling on goalies was something at that day I didn't know yet, that they were getting rid of both Michalik and Vey. So one reason why I called a couple agents and like, yeah, he called him my goalie, is because they got rid of their 2 minor league goalies. So Kakinen's coming, Stalock's here that could wind up in Iowa, but they're also looking for a 2-3, one that's going to push Stalock, but also potentially wind up in Iowa. So that's my answer on that.
Got it. Colin Jacobson, would signing Carter Hutton be a smart move?
Yeah, but he wants a lot of money. He has a potential of going to Buffalo at big money. That's the one thing I will say is that those guys are getting big money. So your choice of getting one of these other guys that are experienced would be all right. Let Cam Ward go to Chicago. Let Carter Hutton go to Buffalo. Then let Jonathan Bernier go to Detroit. Then figure out where Leonard's going. Carolina's going to get somebody, and then all of a sudden you have all these other names out there. And I know they're not names that are going to just knock you out, but might be good number twos. The Letnins of the world and the Chad Johnsons and those guys, and you kind of let the chairs disappear, and then all of a sudden they're panicking and have to sign a deal, whether it's on a cheap one-way or a two-way. So I don't think that I could see goalie not being a July 1 signing. If they're again they got to get a goalie at some point, but it could be just a your prototypical number 3.
From Willie Zaremba, I know it rarely happens, but why were some NHL players under contract allowed to the KHL but not KHL to the NHL?
Well, there's no transfer agreement between the NHL and KHL. So again, these guys can go AWOL, if that's what you're asking, go to Russia. The problem with the KHL, according to Dan Melstein, is that if you don't give 18 months notice, that you can't come here. And so by the time the Kaprizov could, they'd have to pay all this money back in his contract. So, and by the way, Milstein also said today that Kaprizov cannot come to development camp. He says that because he's under KHL contract, it's not allowed. I've heard that from a lot of people, yet the Rangers have a KHL kid right now there. So I don't get it. It's all shady dealing with Russia. One thing we haven't talked about is the no trade clauses on the list that Fenton did get, and maybe you'll get a Twitter question. But I did find out this week that Fenton, during draft weekend, got the no-trade list of Dubnyk, Stalock, and Stahl. And it's being painted to them that this is just something that he wants for a formality for his records. But I do think that he had a potential trade involving one of those 3, probably Stalock or Spurgeon, or Stahl or Spurgeon. And my guess is that all of a sudden, hey, where's their list? And they didn't have them. And the thing with, from what Chuck Fletcher has always told me is that he has never really asked for, even though these guys had no trade lists, some of them, the Pominvilles, the Dubnyks, the Stahls, the Spurges, he never asked for them every year to give them a list because he doesn't want in their head that they could be traded. Right. So last year, when all of a sudden the Buffalo thing came up, he went to Pominville and said, do you want to give me a no-trade list, or would you waive essentially your no-trade and go to Buffalo? And Pominville was willing to do that. So my guess is that he had this thing, and he didn't have it, and so now he's got it. So I do think there is a chance still that Spurgeon or Stahl is in a trade.
Interesting. Let's see. The next one is from Danny Grant on Twitter. What's realistic for Dumba and Zucker when and if the Wild signed them both 6 times $5 million for Zucker and 3 times $6 million for Dumba?
That's what Newport would want. Newport's probably coming in at like 7, knowing them. Dumba's agent. I mean, I would have no problem with the Zucker deal. Although I know the Wild would love it to be below 5. Dumba, I don't know. 3 at 6 is dangerous to me because, like, what would he get in ARB has got to be the first thing. And would he get 6 in ARB? I don't think so. And to me, if you go short term on 6, like the Wild have the right. So I don't know why you would go and just give him that type of money on a short term deal. The Wild were buying out unrestricted years for Granlund, 2 of them. So they had to go that price, and Granlund got less than Dumba. And to me, the second you go 3 years on 6 on Dumba, if all of a sudden he does hit a home run, next thing you're going to be knowing you're going to have to sign this guy to 8 or 9. So I don't think that you want to go that high with him. And so we'll see what happens.
From our old friend Rebecca, is the organization aware of how disappointed fans were with their 24th pick last week? With that one move, they essentially deflated any hope I had for a different team next year.
Well, I mean, they
24th pick in the NHL draft.
Yeah, I mean that guy was not coming no matter who you got. I mean,
they weren't going to help next year anyway.
Yeah. So if I'm understanding the question right, I mean, that was not going to happen. In terms of being disappointed, look, I'll just say what I always say, and I know that like some jackass that got blocked on Twitter today called me a yes man. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to trash the pick. I wrote it as fact the other day. To me, that was my job that night, is everybody in the world didn't think this guy was a first-round pick, but I don't know. So they're the ones that have seen him. I haven't. So and I don't think that everyone in the world that are these draft experts has gone to Sweden to go scout their junior men's league teams. They're below men's league. So look, until we see this guy come over here, I'm not gonna judge. Now, in 3-4 years, if the guy's a bust, or they could have one of these 3 or 4 guys that they might arguably passed up become a stud. Yeah, you second guess it. It's kind of some people in the Wild organization aren't speaking to me right now, and probably will never speak to me again after my draft analysis last week on Brent Flair's tenure as the Wild GM, where I went over their picks and misses and things like that. But that's when you go over it.
It's all facts.
Yeah, I mean, that's when you go over it. Like, I don't know about Philip Johansson. So just because, like, would it? Let's put it this way. I don't even remember a kid's name, Volino. Would it make Rebecca so much more optimistic that they took a guy that she also didn't hear of? So like, to me, it's like, let's wait and see if this right shot defenseman, like in 2 years, if Spurgeon is gone, and there's a very good chance that he could be gone because he's already at 5'7", so he's going to make a 5'1", so he's going to be more expensive at 30, so there's a good chance he's gone. It might be very good that the Wild drafted that right shot defenseman. They don't have any other right shot defenseman other than Dumba in the organization that's worth a damn. So, well, that was unfair because, Belpedio is not going to beat Spurgeon, but I think Belpedio has a chance of being a really good player. And Ryan Murphy's just who he is at this point. So I don't know. I just think, I'm not trying to be dismissive of the question, but in terms of the overall tone of the question, Philip Johansson is hardly the person that should make you give up hope for this upcoming season. Signing a bunch of Greg Patterns might, if all of a sudden it's the same team coming in next year and it really is literally just tweaks that were made and it's the same core and we know the way the story is going to end at the end of the day, then you have a chance to be deflated.
From Noobs, Neil Donarski, I think, on Twitter, how much is Suter's injury going to dictate what Fenton and company are willing to do trade-wise this summer, especially considering Brodin?
Well, I do think that they're hesitant to trade Brodin right now because of Suter's injury, but I do think that they're fairly as optimistic as you can be that Suter's going to be ready by training camp. He thinks he is. Everything I've heard from behind the scenes is that things are going as planned, but look, the reality is we're not going to know until he's skating and on the ice and turning and planting his feet and things like that. So I think it is something that could happen, and maybe that's why they were calling around on left shot D the last little while, is to get some insurance if so. But I do think it's good that we saw that Sealer is such a good. I don't think that was a mirage what we saw, and I think Soucy's a good player.
Very pointed question from Wicked Ginger. Have our lives as well-informed fans come and gone with the dawn of GMPF's regime? The last week has been one of the most info-starved, miserable periods of Wild fandom I can remember. Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, I could think of worse times. I mean, again, you got to be patient. Like, if you want him to make that Arizona trade, you're going to be disappointed. It's better.
I think his point is that he doesn't. This Wicked Ginger doesn't think that Fenton's going to be very forthcoming with interviews.
I see what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah, he's not. He told me. I mean, trust me. When I broke that Arizona trade last week, I mean, he and I talked on the side, and he made it clear. Look, I'm not an information giver, and he keeps everything close to the vest, kind of like in that Peter Chiarelli, Lou Lamoriello mold. And so it just means that I'm going to have to work harder to get information, and sometimes it's going to tick him off. I'm sure he was fuming the other day that I found out that he asked for the no trades of those 3 veterans, and there have been other things that he's been miffed that I've found out, and look, that's my job. And I do think that he could work better with us. All of us. I just think that sometimes Look, I'm not saying give us scoops, but I do think that there comes a point, and I told him this. I said, I think that we are a conduit, and you don't want me shooting from the hip and just guessing what you're doing. Sometimes if you're doing something, it's best to say, look, this is the reason, and let me understand certain things, and this way I can explain it to the fans with a basis of fact rather than just guessing. And, a perfect example is like, look, I'll be perfectly honest, everything I'm doing that I did right now on The Athletic in terms of their free agents, that med the fans today, that made them all dejected going into free agency, is just me guessing educatedly, like, all right, he hasn't made a trade, and so I got to assume that Zucker and Dumba are coming back, so this is all the cap space they got, so they can't go get JVR and Tyler Bozak and Paul Stasny and James Neal and all these guys, so I'm assuming, that they're getting these guys and these guys and these guys, and that's kind of the way it's done. But, because I haven't had that conversation with him, like, look, we've got this stuff, potentially coming, that we could have this going, it's a lot of guesswork.
We're going to do 2 more Twitter questions, as always.
And again, I just want to caution fans one thing. If on July 1 I am right, and they're signing Patterin, and they're signing, Riley Nash, and they're signing like a 4th-line right wing, again, don't freak out that this team's just a mediocre team again, because I still think that in their mind, the best way to improve the top 6 and get playoff scorers is via trade. So what I'm saying to you is that if they haven't made trade by Sunday, they're going to have to sign these players that might not get you all excited. But it doesn't mean that that's going to be the opening night roster or the training camp roster. It just means that that's all they want to do in free agency, which again might be the right thing if what I'm saying happens, and that's the second guys like Tavares and JVR and Stasny just blow these teams out of the water with their 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, $13 million deals, that teams like the Wild come and try to make trades with them. I think that's the way to get better.
2 more Twitter questions. Let me thank Dulono's Pizza for jumping aboard as our host. Again, 5:30 on Tuesday at Dulono's Pizza, 118 North 4th Street, 4th with the numeral 4, in downtown Minneapolis. Again, and also they have a big delivery area. And if you end up ordering a pizza or going there at a time we're not there, let them know that we sent you.
I'm telling you, that lunch buffet. Like, we had our meeting during the lunch buffet the other day, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, pizza bar, sandwich bar, salad bar with chicken on it, which is always the key to me to a good salad bar, is the little protein there.
DeLanosPizza.com, Delano's Pizza on Twitter. Thanks to TwillMN.com. Thanks to Tony Hoaglund, your State Farm agent in Champlin. Thanks to FixologyRepair.com. We'll see John Hedges, I'm sure, on Tuesday night. So check out Delano's. Thank Delano's. Order from Delano's. Show up at Delano's on Tuesday night. We look forward to seeing everybody. Just time for a couple more Twitter questions. I know we don't get to a lot of these, but Michael talked a lot. That's the way
I know.
it is. From Carson on Twitter, what are the chances Koivu becomes a 3rd-line center?
Well, it depends. I mean, if they got a Bozak, then it has to happen. Or it really depends on what they acquire.
From TJ Voigt, if a team trades for an RFA, can they just let him go? For example, could the Wild have just let Foligno walk last year?
Oh, yeah. You just don't sign him, but that never happens. What they didn't have to do was give him a 4-year deal at $285. That contract is still the biggest one that bothers me of last summer, and I just don't know what the Wild were thinking there. I just cannot imagine that late in the game in September that they had to give him all that money on an AAV. I just can't imagine it. Like, do you think that he was going to hold out of his first training camp on his new team? No. Like, they had all the leverage, and then they just gave it to him. So that contract, not good. What the Wild fans have to hope is that the way he played in the last, say, month of the season, and frankly the postseason, is the Marcus Foligno that we're going to see all year next year. Because he was good down in that last month and in the playoffs. He was good. Mm-hmm. He did his role well. But, that was just, for a guy that wound up being a fixture on the fourth line left wing, to now know that he's at 285, I mean, that is a buyout coming down the pike.
Absolutely. From James Lynch, again, the last Twitter question, thanks to everybody. Maybe we'll get a Michael Russo final thought or a final not thought.
I've had lots of final thoughts.
Possibility of Kessel, any interest in UFA Anthony Duclair?
Anthony Duclair would make sense to me if he's on a two-way. I wouldn't give him a one-way, although he is one guy I kind of forgot to put on my list today because I was going off UFAs before the QOs the other day that I made. But the good thing about my new job is I can just add it. Like, it never was not there.
True.
Right?
It ain't in print.
Yeah. I should start doing that every time I'm wrong. Go in there and take a couple of words. So yeah, I called it. Anthony Duclair, I told you. I don't know. I was watching Anthony Duclair when Chicago traded for him. I thought it was going to be an awesome deal, and it obviously didn't work. He seems like I don't know anything about him, but I was just happened to be doing a little due diligence on him yesterday, and I went to his Instagram account. Go check out. Here's my final thought. Go to his Mother's Day Instagram. He bought his mom a Mercedes, and it's the most touching video you've ever seen in your life. I defy you to not come away and, one, love the guy, but two, that you're just touched, It's the coolest video. It made me feel guilty for whatever my Mother's Day gift was this year. I think I got a spa treatment for my mom that I split with my brother. There's my final thought.
That's a great final thought. We'll see you at Dulono's 5:30 on Tuesday.
Pretty little city built on a hillside. Music in the bars and fire in the sky. We went to the beach and it was covered in ice. And I used to call it home. So much coming out, there's nothing going in. I know that you feel like you're never gonna win. Oh, but the world won't forgive a winner.
The Starlight Lounge presents An Evening with the Progressive Box.
Old moon, yeah. That's Hugo, tickling the ivories. He just saved by bundling home and auto with Progressive. Gonna finally buy a ring for that gal of yours, Hugo? Send her my condolences. Hi-oh! This next one's for you two. There's a burglar in my heart. Thank you.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
Security threats are everywhere. But with Xfinity XFi, you're notified of threats to your in-home Wi-Fi network, so all your connected devices are protected. That's simple, easy, awesome. Switch to Xfinity today and get a great offer. You'll get fast speeds and the best in-home Wi-Fi experience with Xfinity XFi. Plus, ask about enhanced security for safer browsing and more. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit an Xfinity store to switch today. Restrictions apply.